You're listening to the Not Too Late Show, the only show where a divorce lawyer tells you the hard truths. Please welcome Sarah Schnare and divorce attorney James Sexton.
Welcome to the Not Too Late podcast. I am Sarah Schnare, one of your co-hosts, and the other lovely gentleman that I get to speak with is Mr. James Sexton. James, how are you?
I rarely get characterized as a lovely gentleman, so it's really nice when that happens. In my line of work, people aren't like, that's a lovely gentleman. It's a line of work where people sit across from you and they say, I heard you're an evil son of a bitch, and they mean it as a compliment. So that's nice, well, Sarah. You can call me that anytime you want.
Thank you. You're always referred to as the hard-hitting divorce attorney, yes. America's divorce attorney. And it just seems so dramatic because I know you. But you have been everywhere lately. I'm just saturated with James Sexton. I mean, what is going on?
I know. It's whatever I can do to impress you, Sarah, I do. No, it's crazy. I'm actually I was in the courthouse today, and for anybody who doesn't know, I did an interview for Soft White Underbelly, which is a really interesting YouTube channel and website that I've been a fan of for a long time. And Mark is a fan of my work, and he's enjoyed the stuff that we do here at LA Mag, and he likes us. So he invited me on, and I ended up doing over an hour interview with him. It was more of like a soliloquy, which if you haven't figured it out, I'm not the strong silent type. So talking is something I can do. And the thing blew up. It's had like almost 2 million views on YouTube, apparently 3-4 million views on TikTok. So I'm getting, inundated by a lot of requests to talk to other people and do other interviews. But also I'm getting a really interesting cross section of like who spends a lot of time on YouTube. And it's people that I did not expect. There's like conservative judges who are like, oh, I saw you on the internet. And I'm like, you did watch Soft White Underbelly? Because it's a lot of interviews with like pimps and prostitutes. So that's kind of interesting that was your choice of interviews. But it's been cool. And it's always, it's always nice to see feedback and to be on people's minds. So I'll take it.
I love that. And James, I do want to promote your book because, this was at 46 weeks on Amazon #1 bestseller list a while ago. This probably is doing even better now that you're blowing up.
Yes, it is #1 again, actually, this week. My publisher, Serena Jones from Henry Holt, just called me yesterday and said, hey, you're back on #1 again. And I said, well, I guess people are buying the book now that there's a buzz again from here. Obviously, I think, the people that enjoy our time together, Sarah, I think also are picking up the book and the audio book, which is always funny to me. I mean, the audio book that anyone could listen to me talk for 8.5 hours straight. That is 8.5 hours of listening to me talk is a lot for anybody. That's actually like 4 hours more than my ex-wife ever listened to me total through a 10-year marriage. So that's pretty good,
Well, if you're in my office, it's already too late. A Divorce Lawyer's Guide to Staying Together. And it is a great read. I thoroughly enjoyed it and pick up a lot of really good relationship tips.
Thanks,
right,
Sarah.
James?
Always means a lot. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks. We have a lot of really great questions today. A lot of them actually are involving kids and sort of what's happening with kids in the divorce. So let's jump right
down to business.
Our first question comes from Alice. My soon-to-be ex-husband is a spineless little bitch. Our current
tell us how you really feel.
There. Okay. It's that he gets the kids on Wednesdays and every other weekend. The court has made it so that I drop off my 4 and 2-year-old boys to him at a designated grocery store parking lot halfway between where we both live. The last few times I dropped off my boys, he had this slutty woman with him. She's gross. I know he's doing it just to piss me off, and I know I can't have the court tell him who he can have in his life, but can the court stop her from being at the drop-off and pickups? Did I mention she's gross and tacky and has zero style? Thanks, Alice. Woo, those were some choice words from a angry partner, it sounds like.
Alice is feeling spicy. I see that. Well, okay. So, let me give you a couple of points of view here. One, Alice, we need to take some breaths, Alice. I think we need to just dial it down a little bit. You got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old with this guy. So I get it. I get that there's anger. I get there's frustration. I get that you have some animosity towards the woman or women in his life. And I get it that you may have hold him in some low esteem. but that spineless little bitch, you're going to have grandkids with someday. And you're going to sit next to at graduations. And statistically, 86% of people are remarried within 5 years of their divorce. So that little slut with no style or taste who he's bringing around, that might be sitting at that graduation with you and might even be in pictures at one of your kids' weddings, even though they're 2 and 4. There's a straight line between now and that. So I would say to you, talking to someone or even just sort of taking some steps back from anger is probably a good thing. Obviously talking to us, listen, you say whatever you want. We're not, we're pretty, we're not fragile people and we can take it. But obviously when you're around your kids, you want to be very careful about things you say. But the core of your question has to do with who's around for the pickups and drop-offs. And it sounds like you have a very structured arrangement. And usually that's because people really have a high conflict divorce. So just the fact that it's at a grocery store parking lot instead of a police station, which is where a lot of high conflict exchanges take place in the court system, is probably good because it's a lot more normal to meet in a grocery store or at a McDonald's in the play section or at a Starbucks than it is to meet at the police station where there are cameras. In terms of who comes along to those things, look, I think it's in poor taste that he's bringing someone. There's really no need to do that. You may want to express that to him again in a more gentle way, something along the lines of, look, I think it's better if during our transitions, we keep the number of additional people to a minimum. But, he may also be the kind of person that realizes he needs help, and he may have a new girlfriend and whether she's got style or class or whether she's whatever. At the end of the day, this is someone who might be around your kids. So he might need help and look at it like that, that if you care about your kids, which I'm sure you do, and he needs some assistance with things like an exchange, it may not be a bad thing that he has people around. Courts will generally not say that a person's not allowed to be around unless that person's being disruptive, disrespectful, giving you dirty looks, cursing at you, things like that. Eventually, your kids are going to be old enough, they're not there yet, where you'll do curbside exchanges. And it'll be a lot easier because you don't need to hand off so much stuff and, all those kinds of things.
Well, Alice could play dirty herself and bring, the hot pool boy or her physical, her trainer with her to the next drop-off.
You can. An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. But listen, get in there if you want to. Sure. Escalate,
It does kind of make you wonder, though, is he ever, let's say he brought somebody who was classy and sophisticated and was not a tacky dresser and all the things. Makes you wonder, would she still be upset with, is it really her or who he's bringing in particular? She might be upset.
Well, and what she stands for. Yeah. Listen, good riddance to bad rubbish. He's gone downhill and downgraded since you, it sounds like. And, that's par for the course for a spineless little bitch, as you described him. If he pulled up with a gorgeous, model, who had incredible taste and style and he pulled up in her Porsche, I don't know that would leave me feeling great. Yeah. I would be more upset. I would be a lot more upset. If my ex was running around with somebody with like an 8-pack and more money than me, I would be like, all right, that's not great.
Well, let's move on to our next question. And this one's unrelated to kids. This one comes from Raul. Hey, James, I was broke as a joke when I met my wife. She came for money, so she was able to help me out financially for years. I am an incredibly hard worker, and recently things at my company have been going very well. It looks like in the next month or two, I'm going to be making huge commissions. Is it shitty for me to ask my wife to sign a postnup? I'm just trying to protect what I worked so hard for, and she will always be okay because her parents are loaded. Thanks, Raul. James, I don't even know what a postnup is. Is that even a thing?
Yeah, great question. A postnup is like the prenup you should have had but didn't have. A postnup, a prenup is nup, right, is nuptials, which is when you get married. A prenup is before the nuptials. A postnup is after the nuptials. So the first thing I'll say to you, unfortunately, my friend, whether it's shitty or not, I can't tell you. I'm nobody's moral compass. I'm a divorce lawyer. I'm not here to be anyone's conscience. You might want to ask that of somebody else in terms of whether it's shitty or not. Personally, I don't think it's shitty. I think that two adults, in a relationship should be able to discuss things like finances and what do we owe each other in the event we split up. But not everybody shares that point of view. So I can't tell you if it's shitty or not. It's as shitty as I would probably look at things, but that doesn't mean I'm not shitty. So I don't know. What I would say is from a legal standpoint, which is probably what you're asking, is prenups are binding. Prenups are enforceable. Postnups, there's a question mark on that. When I started as a divorce lawyer 20 plus years ago, we did a lot of postnups where people had a fragile marriage. Someone got caught cheating. People were having difficulties in the marriage. And they decided, we're not going to split up, but we want to put in paper, if we split up, what it's going to look like. And so we would say, mindful of the fact that the parties are at a fragile place in their marriage, here's what they're going to do if they split up. And that was what we called a postnup. A number of court cases have come down in a variety of jurisdictions that say that postnups are not legally enforceable because, without getting too legal geekish, they fail for what's called want of consideration, meaning that you're not getting or giving anything in exchange for it. So just to put it simple, contracts require what's called consideration, meaning that both sides give or get something, right? Both sides give and get. So contract to buy a car, I'm going to give you money, you're going to give me a car, right? So we both got something, we both gave something. So that's consideration. And a contract fails if there's no consideration. If I just say, I'm going to give you a car because I like you, that's not a binding enforceable contract because there's no consideration. You're not giving me anything back in exchange for that car other than your appreciation. So prenups, the consideration, the thing you're giving is we don't have to get married, but if we're going to get married, I'll marry you if you agree to these financial terms. Problem with a postnup is you're already married. So what you're saying is I'll stay married to you, which continuing to do a thing you've already agreed to do is not really considered consideration in the eyes of the law in many jurisdictions. So what I would say to you is whether it's shitty or not, be careful about thinking you could do a postnup. What you might want to do instead is have a conversation with your spouse who it doesn't sound like you're in a bad place with and say, look, you've got this security. You've got your parents. You're going to inherit money. She knows that. I don't have that safety net. I don't have that security blanket. And I'm worried that if anything ever happens where we split up, that you're going to have more than I will. And see what the two of you can come up with together. And see if there's ways that you can, within the context of your marriage, you can address those kinds of issues, whether it's we're going to put certain money once she inherits it into a joint account, or we're going to have her buy in or buy out of some part of your business. Right. There's lots of ways to do it that won't run afoul and that don't necessarily involve a postnup.
Got it. Do you see that in your line of work, that that's a source of contention? Maybe the husband isn't making as much money or doesn't come from family money, and so there's not that balanced divide?
Yeah. The inheritance thing comes up a lot where one person comes from very little and is often a worker, right? And is making money in the present day. And the other person isn't an earner, but knows that someday they're going to get a big chunk of money. Yeah. And, when someone knows, like, I can't tell you how many times I'm in the middle of a divorce and someone says to me, what does she want? I mean, when her parents die, she's going to get $20 million. Or, what does he want? Why does he need my money? Why does he need half the house? When his mother dies, he's going to get X number of dollars. Yeah. Problem is, unless that person's already dead and the estate is already in probate and you're just waiting for the check, that's what we call a contingent interest. So a lot can happen. A lot can happen where, you don't know your parents' finances in terms of how they invest and whether they lose that money beforehand or whether they meet somebody else that they want to give the money to, or they give it to a sibling, or they donate it to a charity. So the court in a divorce can't make decisions about it's possible that you might inherit money from your parents. Well, it's possible you might hit the lottery too, So the courts don't do that. They look at facts, they look at reality, not, speculation of that kind.
Good point. I also, when your partner's feeling like he or she is providing, especially in the situation with the male who's providing, and it might change the relationship, might be a tough conversation to have. But if he feels really good that he's contributing, I think he might bring that kind of peace, that support, that comfort into the relationship, and maybe just, you hope, be a better partner in the long run, Yeah,
I found in marriage situations and divorce situations, particularly where a man loses his job or where his spouse who used to earn similar to him now is out earning him. This is a male-female thing. Yeah. It is hard. It is like women you very often sort of lose respect for the man and the fact that he's not a provider, not an earner. And again, I don't know that that's one of those gender roles that we shouldn't be considering or reconsidering. But the truth is that that's still out there. There's still a sense, at least even for men, of, hey, I should be a provider. I should be able to provide for my family. And when people lose jobs through no fault of their own, through cuts and through changes in the economy, it's very hard for men. You see increases in substance abuse. You see increases in reckless behavior like gambling. And then it really creates the stuff that lands people in my office. So, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to have those conversations, but it's really important, I think, for people to have conversations about what they expect of each other from an earnings and providing standpoint.
Yep. Well, thank you for your question, Raul.
Yes, Raul. Good luck.
This one is back to kids. Another question regarding kids. Hi, James. I'm devastated. I haven't been happy in my marriage in years. I want to ask my husband for a divorce, but we have 2 preteen daughters. The issue is they are his biological children. I did adopt them, but my fear is that the court will give him custody of his girls. He loves his daughters, but so do I. And these girls are at an age that they need a woman role model in their life. So, James, am I forced to stay in an unhappy marriage to be with these girls? Or could the court see me as a legitimate parent? That's a tough one. Legitimate parent. Thanks, Tabitha.
Well, Tabitha, good news. You are a legitimate parent. You're an adoptive parent, and an adoptive parent and a biological parent have the exact same rights. So that is something you do not have to be afraid of by a function of the fact that you adopted those girls. And you have as much of a relation to them as if they came out of your body. So you don't have to be concerned about that. But, because it does beg the question, what if you hadn't adopted them? Okay. If you hadn't adopted them, but you had had a parent-like relationship with them for many, many years. And the good news there is that the law has changed and evolved in recent years to acknowledge that biology and blood relation to a child is not the thing that should be dispositive of these issues. And this is one of those things I got to see change in my career. I represented a woman, got to be about 15 years ago, who was in a lesbian couple, and they had 2 children. And my client's partner was the biological mother. They had a sperm donor, an anonymous sperm donor. She gave birth to these children, but they were both the mothers to these 2 children. And when the kids were 7 and 9 years old, the couple split up, and the biological parent said, I'm not letting you see these kids anymore. And my client said, what do you mean? I'm their mom, the same as you. Sure. I've been here since day one. What are you talking about? And at the time, the trial court handed down a decision that said, yes, this person is a legal stranger. That was the term to this child. And that actually quoted Bob Dylan lyric in it and said, the times they are a-changing, but the current state of the law is that this person does not have legal standing to seek visitation, custody, or access with these 2 children. Thankfully, that case went up to the appellate division and then the Court of Appeals, and a decision was handed down some time later, many months later, that said, it doesn't matter. This person has had a parent-like relationship. They are an important person in the children's lives, and therefore they have standing to request custody. Even non-biological parents, other relatives. Now, every jurisdiction has some version of this, and you have to show either extraordinary circumstances or some parent-like relationship. But ultimately, the best interest of children is the legal standard that controls on these kinds of issues. And the law has evolved and changed to understand that it's not like, it's not 1950 anymore, where it's like, we got a mom, we got a dad, the 2 of them sleep together and they have a baby. And then that families come in all shapes and sizes. Families come in all different formats. There's single parents, there's sperm donors, there's non-anonymous sperm donors, there's adopted parents that remain involved in the life of children. There's so many permutations of this, and the facts of every family are very unique. And the court system now really looks at it that way. So that's the good news. So, but for this particular question, you're an adoptive parent, biological parent, exact same legal rights, no distinction, no difference whatsoever. All 4 of my nieces are adopted from Vietnam. They are my family as much as they would be my own children would be my family. They are my sister's daughters, the same way my sons are my sons. So you know, whether you were expected or whether you were selected, we're very fortunate that you have these children in your life. And I agree with you that, you know, without even meeting you, that, you know, you two preteen girls, you know, they need a mother, they need a father, they need people in their life who love them. They need adults in their life who are looking out for them and care about them. And I certainly hope that your co-parent, if you and he divorce and split up, that he will acknowledge that even if he has issues with you, that most people love their children more than they dislike their ex. So hopefully you guys will be in that same place.
Is there anything, though, specifically she can do to prepare? I mean, is there like things she should be doing or collecting or showing or taking notes or keeping a log to prepare for?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think, you know, information is ammunition. So I think always paying attention to, you know, what tasks you do for the girls and what time you spend with them and what his situation is. I always tell people custody cases, there's two cases happening at the same time, what I call a positive case and a negative case. A positive case is what are you doing right as a parent? The negative case is what's the other person doing wrong as a parent. And usually people focus on one or the other way too much. So they either come in and explain to me how shitty of a parent their co-parent is, which is helpful from a, you know, I want to use that as an advocate, but also that doesn't mean you're not just as bad, if not worse. So I always tell clients, I have to show why they're the wrong parent and why you're the right parent. Yeah. And they have to show why they're the right parent and you're the wrong parent. So it's a chess match. You know, my positive case goes against their negative case. My negative case goes against their positive case and vice versa. So I always tell clients, just be mindful, just document things, be mindful of your own strengths and weaknesses and take a close look at and try to document your partner's strengths and weaknesses.
Nice. Thank you, James. And thanks for your question, Tabitha. I wish you the best with your situation and those great girls you got. And I think that's all the time we have, James. And I'm sure I'm going to see you saturating my inbox and all over TikTok and Instagram.
Apparently, if you go on TikTok, I'm like jumping up. I don't have one. I don't have a TikTok, but I got to tell you, apparently I'm all over the damn
You're
thing.
Everywhere. So You're a big deal. Well, thanks for your time always. Thanks for your questions, you guys. And we'll see you back.
Thank you.
Again. Yeah. Thanks.
Great. See you soon.
If you have any relationship or divorce questions and want to hear from attorney James Sexton, be sure to email podcasts@lamag.com.